Hell! Hell! Oh, someone hates that. Hell!
Yeah, everybody hates that, except
it's
for
the
me.
jarring hell. We never used to do this. I mean, we got rid of this. Now we're back.
You got rid
Live
of it. Yeah.
from your mother's unfinished attic. Ooh, we're upstairs now. It's a Woke Data Wednesday spectacular here at the Woke Data Farm Stand. And you know what? I don't think that's organic. I think it's just normal.
Oh, really?
Pesticide. Yeah.
Is it local at least?
Joined as always by our BS correspondent, Matt Moscardi. I'm full of fiber in today's Adderall-scented bag of Wyoming-flavored nuggets called September 21st, 2022, Dilbert.
Yeah!
That's it. You know, I had a whole plan today. We had a long list of like corporate apologies, pre-apologies, post-apologies, but Matt, we can't avoid this topic anymore. We have to talk about Dilbert.
You're pretending like we were trying to avoid it. Like we were very excited about this on Monday.
We were planning something, but then the regular business news, ESG news, whatever you want to call it, they finally discovered it like a month later. So we're like, okay, we got to talk about this now. And in honor, I'm going to hand it over to you, Matt. But in honor of the Dilbert talk today, I'm wearing my very woke Peanuts rainbow flag hat.
Yeah. Scott Adams would be proud.
This would kill him, right? This would be the ultimate. I'm guessing that Charles Schultz is an idol to him, as Charles Schultz should be. But this is just taking it too far, right? I mean,
that is taking it too far. I mean,
all right, let's go.
All right, let's do this. All right, some breaking news right now. Dilbert got woke. Here, I'm just gonna play you a clip. This is a longish clip, okay? So just bear with me. But this is Scott Adams, the creator of Dilbert.
Set it up. What is Dilbert? Who is this person? At least set it up. Not everyone knows Dilbert. Set it up.
That's true. If you're not in this country, you might not know Dilbert, although it is syndicated in like 57 countries. Dilbert
yeah, but it was like 30 years ago people cared.
Yeah, Dilbert was relevant like 30 years ago. Dilbert, I remember reading Dilbert when I was a kid in the actual newspaper when there was a paper that you read. And Scott Adams is the author of Dilbert. It satirized corporate life. It was basically like a skewering of management.
It was kind of a Kafka-esque skewering of management.
It was always management. It was
relentless,
always like
daily,
ridiculous.
Yeah,
it was Office Space, the movie before Office Space existed.
Yes,
it was all
before Office, the TV show. Exactly.
Yeah, it was all that stuff. So since then, Scott Adams has shifted his focus. Over time, he's gotten a little bit more conservative, or he's been more outspoken about conservative things, whatever. Now he is taking on ESG. Now, I'm going to let him explain it. This is Scott Adams, the author of Dilbert, the comic strip.
This is actually happening. I honestly can't. We'll get to it, but when Matt says he's taking on ESG, he's literally taking on ESG, actually using the acronym in his comics.
Yes, it's in the comics, the whole thing. Yes. We're going to go through it. Then we're going to play a little game. This is a 2-minute clip, so just listen to it, like get a coffee and our tea or do whatever you're going to do because he has lots to say. Here we go.
It's a hard run at ESG today. So the first in the series is out today. I tweeted it if you want to see it in its fullness.
I hope somebody hears this.
But let me read it to you.
You can't hear it?
So here's Dilbert and the gang, and the boss is saying in the first panel, our company has a low ESG score,
I don't hear it,
and I hold each of you responsible. And then the boss says, take Dilbert, for example. He's not diverse, he pollutes, and he rarely asks for your pronouns. And the boss finishes in the last panel, he says, we can't fix the world overnight, but targeting Dilbert for abuse is a step in the right direction.
We have to discuss it.
Okay, so I'm going to pause for a second. He read out his first comic where he takes on ESG here. He basically says he's introducing ESG, and he reads about, like Dilbert has a question about low ESG scores. He went right for scores. There's no parsing here. But this is the part in the video where if you're on the live stream, I know you can hear it. So it's just Damien who can't hear this.
It's fine. Okay.
So now this is the part where he says he's taking on ESG. He's taking it on.
Ooh, cool. I like this.
Ready?
I'm excited.
Okay. So I'll summarize again when it's over.
And so it begins. Shots fired. So here's how I intend to play this.
This is me pretending.
So there'll be several more ESG jokes coming. In fairly short order, it should start to become known that Dilbert thinks it's ridiculous.
Okay, so he says, shots fired. Shots fired. He's planning on taking on
culture war,
tackling ESG, and in fairly short order, it'll be obvious that Dilbert thinks ESG is ridiculous.
Why is he taking on ESG? Well, do we even know why? Okay, here's what I know about Scott Dilbert. Sorry,
Scott Adams. Yeah,
there was some news within the last 10 years that he had gone a little MAGA. Maybe not full MAGA. But he'd gone a little like
he's like he's half a MAGA,
maybe pro George W. Bush or whatever. But why? But do you have any sense of why he needs to take this on? Like why him? Like what's going on?
So
here?
Here's the fascinating part about this, and we should talk about it first, and then we'll play a game, because the fascinating part about this is Dilbert. The central conceit of Dilbert is to skewer management, right?
Yeah, as I was saying before, when nobody was listening except for my plants. He was the first sort of he was an ESG cartoonist. I mean, he still is ostensibly.
Basically.
That's what's so crazy about this is that he would constantly punch up at management, which really was, I mean, the original game of corporate governance really was the way of identifying shitty management, right? I mean, essentially, I know it's a little bit more complicated than that.
Well,
you
no,
eggheads, but
it's not that much more complicated. But that was the joke, right? We were all in on the joke. The joke was management does stupid things because they read about it in the Wall Street Journal, or because they have these dumb ideas and they think because they're management. It's this whole thing. That's the conceit.
And wouldn't it be wonderful if we had some power? At least we could act as a counterbalance. Maybe have an effective board. Maybe we could have maybe an effective shareholder proposal. Just some way to counter effects the lunacy and idiocy of management.
I mean, it was basically like an employee rights parable, like how management.
It's a very ESG comic. And you know what? When he's even now, Matt, when he's not doing anti-ESG comics, they're still extremely ESG.
So
he's
we're very much.
Yeah,
but here's the problem. He's shots fired at ESG. Now he's anti-ESG, and all they're doing is making fun of ESG. So, and this is for the ESG community specifically, because you have to own this. We have to own this, people. The fact is, Scott Adams and Dilbert thinks ESG was management's idea. It was never management's idea.
But who was management? You mean like the leadership, like the top five?
I mean,
kind of
Dilbert's
executives?
like the pointy hair guy,
CEO,
right?
CFO.
But yes,
like the chair of the
board.
This
is board chair. This is like executive C-suite on down, pushing down things, and you see it in the comics. The C-suite is saying things like, "We need to raise our ESG scores."
So he thinks it's so when people are attacking, say, Disney or Apple for ESG-ness and wokeness, they think that it's a management initiative.
Yes. This is my theory, because Dilbert's whole thing is to skewer management, and all of Dilbert's comics that are anti-ESG, and now there's been like 2 weeks of them, are basically it's management saying ridiculous things that ESG is supposedly. And Scott Adams very clearly has no real idea what ESG is. He hits on nor do we in some places.
Nor do we really, frankly, Matt. What? I don't even know who ESG is.
It's a data
I know
point.
We're attacking it a lot, and Musk's mad, and Vivek's mad. All these people are mad, but I don't even know what it is. Who are they? Who is ESG?
It's just data. So
are we
all
ESG?
all that's happened is Dilbert is now skewering what it thinks is management's idea.
Can you at least show me how?
It was not management's idea. So let's play a quick game, and this is how I'll show you. It's called Rate the Dilbert, Woke or Not. Okay? I'm going to show you some Dilbert comics. I'll read them out loud because they're going to be hard to see if you're not live streaming on the live stream. And when I finish it, you can tell me whether that was an ESG comic, a pro-ESG comic, a woke comic, or not a woke comic. Is he skewering ESG? Did he not get
equals woke. In this world, ESG equals woke.
Yeah, woke or not. Okay, ready?
Sure.
Here's the first one. Dilbert says, what is this ESG thing I keep hearing about? And then Dogbert says, imagine if a crooked politician and a crooked financial advisor got married and had a baby. And Dilbert says, so ESG would be that baby. And Dogbert says, only if it is colicky and has fire hose diarrhea. That's the comic.
Okay. Well, this one's sort of apolitical, right? This is nonpartisan, right? We don't know if the crooked politician's on the left or the right, right?
Sure.
We don't know if the financial advisor is like an egghead from Swarthmore or like a greedy person from Wharton, right? We don't know what's going on here.
That's
right?
True. We also do know that neither politicians nor financial advisors made up ESG, got the data, did the thing.
Yeah.
None of them were actually involved in ESG. None of them.
So he's just hating crooked people here. So I guess he's conflating ESG with crooked people?
So that's what it seems like, right?
That's the joke here?
That's the joke, ESG is full of crooks. ESG's crooked and gives you diarrhea or has diarrhea. I don't know. It's something about diarrhea in there also.
I got to tell you, Matt, I worked in ESG, I guess, for many, many years, including all the way up to the corporate level. And when you walk into those offices in the morning and you turn on the lights, it's just a bunch of like good-meaning, nerdy people with bag lunches, and there's no crooked people.
Salmon button-downs and khaki.
Yeah, there's like someone who's like overly excited by the new coffee machine. Like there's no crooked. No one's making a lot of money, first of all, and I don't really see. I don't know.
Really annoyed about the little.
I don't know who he thinks he's attacking. I really want to I want to know
on the new khakis, right?
Who does he think ESG is? Go ahead.
Is this
keep going.
a pro ESG, a woke Dilbert or not a woke Dilbert?
Well,
you have to pick one. It's a binary game, and there's only one correct answer. That's the way this game works.
Is this woke? I guess this would be anti-woke, right? Because if you're saying that ESG is woke,
that's
okay,
correct.
Did I get it?
You got it. You got it. You're with me. Okay, next comic. You ready? This is where it starts to get. It's going to get confusing fast. Here
because this one told me nothing. He's just saying that ESG FU. He's not really saying anything.
That's basically right. Now,
I want to hear more.
This one's a little bit more. Okay, ready? This is Catbert saying, you have been accused of having a relationship with a subordinate. And the CEO says, so what? It hasn't changed any of my decisions as a CEO. And Catbert says, did you recently promote your admin assistant to senior vice president of engineering? And the CEO says, she does good work. That's the comment.
Okay. This is extreme. This is extremely woke. This is ESG at its finest, right? I mean, we're trying to quantify horrific CEO behavior, especially behavior that affects a stakeholder group like other employees, women, whatever.
This is 100% ESG. In fact, all the 100%. Questions and demands for diversity in management teams is because of CEO behavior like this. Right, like
so that's why I don't understand. So he was the first ESG comic artist.
This isn't the first. So the first comic I read to you is from September 15th, 2022. Yeah. The second comic I read to you is from August 29th of 2022. These are 2 weeks apart.
You sure it's not 1997? You sure this is recent?
2 weeks apart. This is how little that the world understands what ESG actually is. In his own comic, he makes an ESG point as he skewers ESG like 2 weeks later. A good
one, too. One that I enjoyed.
Yeah, great. It's great. Here's the next one. Okay, you're 2 for 2 so far. You're doing well.
Yeah.
CEO says, our ESG score will drop if we open a new factory that adds CO2 to the atmosphere. But we can balance that out by adding more diversity to our board. Catbert says, how much CO2 do you plan to add? And the CEO says, 1 non-binary board member's worth.
I get it.
Yeah, right? Now,
well, okay, you know what he's doing here? Okay, I have to say if it's woke or not.
Yeah, woke or not.
I'm going to go like a mildly anti-woke because really he's poking at the industry itself, right? He's not poking at the full, right.
That's correct.
This is where I think maybe he's a genius because you know what he's doing here? He is confused and upset about maybe the speed at which that that the ESG world acquired. It's like all these mergers and acquisitions. You suddenly had all these disparate E, S, and G companies slammed together in a huge marketing push to sell this concept of ESG. I think that's what he's saying. He's saying, how can you balance classically corporate governance scores like that you might have gotten from like the corporate library with like social scores that you might have gotten from like KLM, right? That's what he's talking about here. Is that ESG merged too quickly, right? Isn't that what he's saying?
I don't think it's that they merged too quickly, but I do think he's squarely skewering us.
It's not what he's saying.
My time at MSCI and your time at MSCI and the Sustainalytics teams and S&P, we should all be looking at this and giggling like a little bit inside our brains, because we absolutely know that we are effectively weighing things that make no sense together. We're basically saying like, is there enough independence on the board? And we're saying that next to how many toxic spills have you had?
Yeah, it's
like
an unfortunate amalgamation of disparate like thoughts. The ESG sandwich is unfortunate in that way because they don't really speak to each other in the way that marketing or sales wants you to believe that they do.
And look, Scott, you're right about this being a joke, but know where it came from. Because 20 years ago, when we all started this bullshit, no one was listening to anything we said. Forget disparate like environmental, social governance. We got whatever data we could find and smashed it together because no one was listening anyway. Nobody cared.
Except for Barry Diller. Barry Diller was listening.
We'll come back to him later. But yes, okay. There's no one really cared. No one cared. All right. You're doing really well here. You're 3 for 3.
I live this.
Here we go. This one is going to be a little bit tougher. Okay, ready?
Yeah.
CEO says, Dave, I need to boost our company's ESG rating, so I'm promoting you to be our CTO. Now, it's important here because Dave is the one black character in Dilbert.
Black man.
Black man, okay? I know you identify as white, so that won't help our ESG scores, but would it be too much trouble to identify as gay? And then Dave, the black man, says, depends how hard you want me to sell it. And the CEO says, just wear better shirts.
Wow. I don't really know where to go with this one. Okay, so first of all, there's some great like homophobic 1980s humor there.
Yeah, nice. Nicely caught.
We're combining gay men with shirt wearing. Yep. I don't know what that is. I don't know
caught
what that means.
Caught that. Yeah.
But the other part, I was a ESG analyst, corporate governance analyst. I don't know how to. I'm stumped. I don't know how to deal with this one. So it's a black man who, in the proxy statement, is allowed to. He's calling himself white in the. But if Scott knew that, but what Scott doesn't know is that. Well, first of all, we don't quantify diversity in this way. I mean, the ESG industry they don't capture race in this way. Oh my God,
your nuance is killing me right now.
I don't know what to say about this one. This one is so puzzling to me. All I'm getting out of Scott is that he makes fun of people who care about other things and people. Like if you care about the environment or if you care about whatever, women getting harassed by their boss, he makes fun of you? Is that what I'm getting at? I don't get explain this one to me. I don't understand this.
You got this one wrong. The answer to this is it is definitively anti-woke because all he's doing is saying there's a culture war and a culture identity game that liberals are playing, and in order to count the right number of people, we need to raise our scores by making you, the black man who identifies white, gay, so that we can at least get diversity credit for your gayness, if not your blackness.
And is there another joke here that because he's a black man, he couldn't be qualified to be the CTO? Is that it? Like, why can't he shouldn't be promoted in the first place? And this is just like racist shit.
That to me
what
is
that?
The subtext. There's a subtext.
That's terrible.
Like, I'm going to promote
a terrible,
you to
cynical,
CTO.
horrible point of view.
And none of this.
Wait. But his readers are supposed to acknowledge that joke immediately, like. Well, it's a black man wouldn't be qualified for a promotion. That's supposed to be the premise
is where
that you start with?
We're walking on that fine line of making a point versus just saying some shit to get people upset.
Because to Scott, I would say, what's wrong with the end result of a rating system that helps promote people that should be promoted in the first place? Like, why is that a problem?
Well, he should be gayer. That's the problem.
And not black.
And he should identify as black, but he can't make him identify it. The whole thing
in his meritocracy.
Here's your last one. Let's see if you can get it, because it's very confusing.
Head is spinning. I love this, by the way. I love this.
Okay, ready? The pointy-haired boss says, whistleblowers are telling the press we sell pills that are dangerous and ineffective. And CEO says, we need to grind up all the evidence and spread the dust in a remote desert. And the pointy-haired boss says, what about the whistleblowers? And the CEO says, that's who I'm talking about.
Yeah. Okay, two things. First of all, I saw that joke coming up Broadway. That was a very obvious joke.
Yeah, it was not.
But second of all, this is the most woke ESG thing you could possibly imagine. I mean, this is why I think that Scott is actually an ESG comic, because this is the very heart of when ESG, I think, is thriving.
So now imagine a situation in which you took all the things that Dilbert skewers, take out the ESG, the new ESG move in the last 2 weeks. You go backwards and you look at all the things that Dilbert has skewered as data points. Then you counted all those data points at every company. And then you used all those data points to make an investment decision about the lunacy of some of the way we treat our employees.
Scott would be happy.
Scott would look at that and be like, wow, that's pretty cool.
I made a difference. Like, he could tell his family, like, look, I actually made a difference.
I made a difference. I didn't just draw pointy-haired white people and
pointless, relentless, redundant
for 35 years. What I did was create a data set that changed corporate culture.
That's why I'm super confused. So
now
what is
he's after ESG. He clearly doesn't get it.
So what is he and other people? What are they angry about? Are they angry about that once you start? Okay, it's okay to complain about something, but once you turn that complaint into action, is that the bad thing? Like, you know what I thought earlier? I thought, is this secret fear of the rise of like a stakeholder movement, of like a labor movement or something? Like, why is it okay for him to complain about it, but not okay for someone else to quantify it into a rating? That's what I don't understand. What's the difference?
Well, first of all, I think he just got a tip from somebody, because like that guy has not been in an office situation in how long? Like he's been writing this comic for 30 years. I don't think he's maybe
ever been. I think he's always been sitting at a desk.
I think the joke is that like he actually doesn't work in an office and hasn't had to in 30 years.
Right.
But there might be a new reason why he's going to lean deep into ESG, because it broke that Lee Enterprises, and this broke yesterday. Lee Enterprises, these wonderful woke people on your screen right there, canceled Dilbert in 77 of their newspapers. Now, Lee Enterprises owns like tiny papers all across the U.S. Like it's like local papers, and they canceled Dilbert.
Yeah, not in major metropolitan areas that one would consider the normal woke cities. We're not talking like New York City, Boston, San Francisco.
Yeah, this is like Bismarck and like Boise, right? All the B's. But this board, which is, there's 9 of them, and it's really a rainbow of diversity. It's 8 white people. And
now, does that black man on that board, does he identify as white?
I think he probably identifies as white and gay, but it wasn't in the disclosures. Their diversity,
not from the shirt. The shirt would suggest he doesn't.
They did have a diversity matrix, and LGBTQ wasn't on it.
That sounds woke. Yeah.
That these people canceled Dilbert. Apparently, also canceled like a dozen other comics. But this is what's...
It was going to look into that a bit more, because our local newspaper canceled, quote unquote, a bunch of comics, but really it was because of cost. Like,
well, here's what Adams had to say. Yeah. The quote that he gave the New York Post, or some outlet that the New York Post republished, I think it was Fox News actually, is, quote, "It was part of a larger overhaul, I believe, of comics. But why they decided what was in and what was out, that's not known to anybody except them, I guess," said Adams, who noted it coincidentally happened after he incorporated wokeness into the stories. So he drops in that it's a coincidence.
It was always woke,
Isn't it a weird coincidence that now I start talking about wokeness and all of a sudden I'm canceled? It's cancel culture.
But he was always woke. I don't know what does he mean? I don't know what he means.
It's just the confusion continues. Just let the confusion waft over you. That's all we got for the Dilbert section. That's the Dilbert section. So you ready to go on to the next section?
I'm just amazed. I just cannot believe the acronym made it into a Dilbert comic. I'm just amazed.
Yeah,
let's go.
Fantastic.
Keep going.
All right, here we go. The next section, what would Jesus buy? It's an update on anti-woke investing news. So from the great Sejal Kashan, who is a reporter at Bloomberg, who I've gotten to know a little bit, she just covered Inspire ETFs, and they are religious ETFs. Now, for the record, religious ETFs have existed for 20 years, right? Like there's that you can buy the BlackRock version. You can buy it right now. Okay. What makes this group interesting? First of all, I like the quote from Leviticus that I pulled because they actually, it's like, what would Jesus buy? And then in the Bible, in Leviticus, it says, you may acquire male and female slaves from the pagan nations that are around you. So there you go. We already know what Jesus could buy. We've solved the problem. But here's what was interesting about it. First of all, in the fund itself, Sturm Ruger, the gun manufacturer, and a hard out was Amazon. Hard out. No.
Wait,
no
they're
Amazon.
suggesting that Jesus would buy guns?
Jesus would buy guns. That's
even I wouldn't take the joke
ethos of the fund. Jesus would buy guns. They also out was Stinger missiles. Jesus would not buy a Stinger missile, but would buy semi-automatic weapons. I'm not kidding. This is all real.
Okay.
But the amazing part about this is this statement, which they updated on August 19th of this year for their ETFs. Prior to August 19th, if you read all of their prospectuses, it says they do very normal things. They weed out companies that are involved with abortifacients, that are involved with, all sorts of, religious reasons. Okay. Then on August 19th, they decided, this is not coincidentally, as soon as the anti-woke backlash is really ramping up, here's what they said, quote, they are removing ESG from all of their prospectuses from here out. In their prospectus, it turns out, prior to August 19th, they said, we consider also the following ESG criteria, and the criteria included data and privacy protections, employee treatment. It was all sorts of very common ESG indicators. I'm not kidding.
Okay.
It's all real.
Okay. I just feel exhausted. Yeah.
And when you go through their website, they also had this tidbit where they explained what ESG investing is. This company now says it doesn't do ESG investing because it's a woke liberal agenda. They say on their website, what is ESG investing? Quote, ESG stands for environmental, social, and governance, which is an investment strategy that considers positive social and environmental impact as well as financial returns. By integrating ESG factors into valuing a company, you can evaluate risks and opportunities that go beyond fundamental metrics. And then it says, insert video link, ask me which one. That would open in a new tab. They forgot to put the video link in. So it was just the thing that he...
Yeah. And what would have that gone out to? Scott Adams talking about Dilbert?
Well, here's the thing. They're making the case for what ESG investing is for years up until August 19th when it turned into a liberal conspiracy.
Well, I was going to say, I'm no Christian. I hate to break the news. And I'm certainly no theologian. But the way Jesus has always been described to me is that he really was the first ESG thing, right? He was the first woke kind of, right? Yeah. Because wasn't he very focused on the meek and all that nonsense? I mean,
except for buying the male and female slaves.
Okay, but
slaves, except for that wasn't that woke.
Yeah.
Let's
maybe
be honest.
Maybe they were black, identifying as white, acting gay. I don't know.
Shout out to Sejal Kashan for this story. But also in Bloomberg today, in anti-woke investing news, or this week actually, Strive Asset Management, Vivek's company.
Yes.
Launched a new ETF that's not an energy ETF. It's just a pure anti-woke ETF.
He's getting a lot of news on this.
He's getting a lot of play about the companies he's choosing and why he's choosing them and all that kind of stuff. But he wrote a letter as part of the launch to Apple, the company.
I saw this. And Disney. Yep, I saw these.
And Disney. And the Apple letter talked about Apple had a shareholder vote in January. In which in which shareholders voted, 53% voted for a civil rights audit at Apple.
the alternative democracy at work. You ask your shareholders, and they weighed in.
And you know what they were asking for? A report. They just were looking for a report. They were looking for some data. Have you violated the civil rights of basically Uyghurs
Matt,
or anybody else?
A report can lead to wokeness because, all woke really is just a education. That's all it really is.
But if you want to get to the heart of the anti-woke Vivek movement, it is on screen. I have pulled out the thing that he did throughout the letter.
Okay,
Took the word shareholders. Every time he wrote the word shareholders, he put it in quotes. Air quote shareholders.
Is this a shot at like Larry Fink and BlackRock?
That's exactly what he did. He basically said Larry Fink and BlackRock voted, but they are not. They are quote air quote shareholders. They are not real shareholders.
Not real shareholders.
The real shareholders are the people whose money is invested with BlackRock. That is his thing. Let the people vote. Isn't that also what BlackRock is doing anyway? They're giving back institutional
the ability to vote.
Investors can already do that. They gave back the vote. And it's almost like BlackRock saw this coming like 2 years ago because they set up the systems to do this. But now Vivek wants all the shareholders to vote. That's what.
Is he only mad at BlackRock, or is he mad at all the woke East Coast?
I guess he assumes. What he's assuming,
State Street,
First of all, BlackRock was only 6% of Apple's holdings, right? It was 53%. So BlackRock hypothetically was a swing vote, but he's assuming that more than half of the 6% that BlackRock owned would have voted against a civil rights audit, right? Like he's saying basically 3% of the owners, the actual owners, not BlackRock, would have voted against the civil rights audit.
So he just like Trump and the MAGA crowd, he is calling doubt on this election because they're not even real voters. He's saying they're not real voters.
It is an extension of 2020 election. I'm waiting for the riots. He did not mention the fact that at AT&T, civil rights audit was on the ballot this year and got a whopping 3% for, and BlackRock voted against it. Did not mention that BlackRock votes against it in some cases. And voted for it in like two cases.
Wait, do we know that they voted for it at Apple? We have proof. There's proof of this.
Yes, we do know they voted for it at Apple because I looked up their global proxy vote. I wanted to be sure about that. They also voted for all the board members because there's nothing wrong with board members that are incestuous and have known each other for 100 years. So, I think my question for you is,
I'm ready.
Vivek right? Should you hand democracy to the individuals? Is the proxy system broken because it's skewed towards the large institutions? Is he right?
Well, I don't know. I mean, mathematically, I don't know that. Well, from what you're saying, if they only own 6%, then it's certainly not completely skewed, right? I mean, there's still a 90. Well, do we know what percentage of Apple ownership is institutional?
Oh, it's the majority. But
the assumption there that they're all
pension funds and things.
But are they real shareholders, the pension funds?
This is unclear to me. Who's
I'm
the
sure
shareholder?
he would really hate places like CalPERS, right? Because they're probably way too liberal for him. It's funny because he always says he's very nonpartisan, but he only seems to be upset at one side.
Yeah, he's very upset.
Is he right?
Is he right? I mean, in a way, he kind of might be. He kind of might be right that for years and years and years, BlackRock voted against shareholder-driven proposals. They voted almost exclusively against them when shareholders themselves might have voted for them. We know that climate science, for instance, the majority of Americans actually believed in climate science. And they tended to be wealthy, white, and had high household wealth. That will be BlackRock's main constituent. If you gave them the power to vote, 10 years ago, we might have been talking about like carbon reductions instead of last year, for instance.
So what is the solution here? Does Vivek have a solution? Just take away institutional voting power?
So he wrote the letter to Apple telling Apple to ignore the will of the quote shareholders.
But based on what theory?
On the theory that the real shareholders, had they had a vote, would not have voted for this.
But so does he disagree with the whole shareholder proposal process?
He's
itself,
all over the place. He
all over the
disagrees
place.
with the shareholder proposal process. He disagreed with the actual ask of the civil rights audit, but which should be nonpartisan, right? Like, more data about violating employee civil rights does not seem like a partisan issue, does it?
Yeah, this is yet again another. No, this is yet again another person who fundamentally does not understand what ESG is. I read these letters. You know, the one thing he doesn't understand at all is the concept of long-term risk at any corporation. But that's the only thing we're really talking about when we talk about ESG, is just identifying different potential traps over a long-term period, right? Like, where could your company trip and stumble? Let's think about it. That's it. But he doesn't talk about long-term risk ever.
Well, maybe he should buy an Inspire ETF, because they explained it pretty well in their FAQ that included a link that doesn't exist. That's what I got for anti-woke news. Finally, let's just wrap this show up before it goes into
I find this battle exhausting.
Yeah, doing this like every day really actually hurts.
Yeah, okay, keep going.
I want to end this with Barry Diller.
It's funny you mentioned Barry Diller.
Barry Diller was in the news having taken an anti-ESG, anti-woke stance. It's shocking to me that like an 80-year-old dual-class executive who basically is the OG of hating governance is out now against ESG.
In fact, in my tenure at the corporate library, he was the first well-known person that I remembered to call out corporate governance and yell at it in the New York Times.
He's the first. He's very.
He goes back.
Yeah, he goes back. He goes way back.
He also was the first. I think he said
to stand up against earnings management.
I think he said he wanted to throw us into the East River. Maybe it was the Hudson. He wanted to throw us into one of the rivers that surrounds Manhattan.
Which one would have been the woker river to get thrown into?
I don't know. But we were in Portland, so he could have just thrown us in the Atlantic. So that would have been easier. I don't know why you wanted to throw us into one of the rivers. He actually was going to
bus you like Ron DeSantis
very New York centric
into New York and then throw you in the river. Speaking of, we do have breaking news. I just got a text. We got breaking news on Ron DeSantis sending migrants to Martha's Vineyard. Speaking of the anti-woke. They now have filed a human trafficking claims, is what they're looking at.
Could we briefly get back to Barry Diller? As part of our new, we have a new corporate theater department here that takes business news and ESG news and turns them into little skits. We were covering Expedia yesterday. Do you know what we were talking about Expedia? Do you know what one amazing thing about Expedia, the company dominated by Barry Diller, where he's the executive chair and he probably owns everything dual class? You know what the most amazing thing about them? They are run by 4 people, Matt. And these 4 people all have this same characteristic, and I'm just really impressed by it. All 4 of the people that run Expedia are all white, bald men. Isn't that incredible?
Finally,
that's amazing.
They got a chance.
That's beautiful.
Finally.
I know I talk a little bit too much about bald men here, and maybe it's a little unfortunate, but I just thought this was very special. All 4 of them.
I'm just going to tell you right now, it's sexual harassment in the UK still. But
that's
the
fine.
reason why I bring up Barry Diller is because Barry Diller is OG of corporate governance, and it's worth listening to anything that anti-woke blowhard has to say, if for no other reason than it's kind of funny.
He has credibility because he wanted to throw G in the river even before it was ESG. So I hats off to Diller.
That's called winning. That's all we got for Woke Wednesday.
That was too much.
It's too much. Damian Rollis, I'm Matt Moscardi. We are Free Float Media. And Damian mentioned the corporate theater players, which if you've been listening to the last 2 Tuesday shows, we have actual actors acting out basically Dilbert sketches. They're Dilbert sketches.
Where else are you going to find this? Where else?
Nowhere, except for Dilbert 30 years ago, because it doesn't exist anymore.
Or in August.
It's all anti-woke. That's all we got. We'll be back at you tomorrow with more Business Pants. Goodbye.